You, me, the screen you're looking at right now, and even your cat. Deep down, we are all basically space trash. Picture this. 13.8 billion years ago, there was absolutely nothing. And then, boom, the universe just spewed out everything. Atoms slammed into each other. Gas collapsed into stars. Those stars got old. They exploded. They scattered their cosmic debris all over the place. Eventually, one clump of that dust gathered together and became our sun. Another clump became the Earth. At first, it was hot as hell, but give it a few billion years and it cooled down. Asteroids packed with ice smashed into the planet. That gave us oceans. And somewhere down at the bottom of the sea, a few molecules decided to team up. They figured out how to copy themselves. Boom again. We have life. Now, for billions of years, life was just boring bacteria, until one renegade group figured out how to eat sunlight and pump out oxygen. Here's the thing about oxygen. It changed everything. Organisms got bigger. They grew eyes. They sprouted legs. They crawled up onto the land. Why? Because the land had a ton of food and zero competition. These creatures evolved into reptiles, then dinosaurs. The dinosaurs absolutely dominated the planet. They were huge. They were unstoppable, but turns out the universe had a different plan. It threw a giant space rock straight at Earth. The dinosaurs got wiped out. Honestly, anything big? Dead. So what happened next? The entire playing field was left wide open for a group of tiny, furry creatures who knew exactly how to hide underground. Mammals? Our ancestors? Flash forward a few million years to Africa. The climate shifted. Dense jungles dried up and turned into open savannas. Suddenly, these early apes lost their homes. And to see over that tall grass, mostly to check if some monster was waiting to eat them, they had to do something completely unnatural. They stood up. Now, biologically speaking, walking on two legs is a disaster. It gifted our ancestors with eternal chronic back pain. It also narrowed the pelvis, which turned childbirth into a super dangerous ordeal. But here's the trade-off. Their hands were suddenly free. And free hands start making tools. They figured out how to smash open bones with rocks to get to the marrow. That is pure, calorie-dense fat that other predators just left behind. But the ultimate evolutionary cheat code? Fire. Fire wasn't just a way to stay warm or scare off predators. Think of fire as a second stomach, but outside of your body. Instead of spending 6 hours a day chewing tough roots and raw meat, cooking pre-digested the food. It saved massive amounts of digestive energy and pumped all those extra calories straight to the brain. And so our brains got bigger. A giant brain is an absolute energy hog. But it comes with a major perk. It can handle complex social structures. If you want to survive in a large group, basic grunts just don't cut it anymore. So language was born. And early on, it probably wasn't for writing poetry. It was for gossiping, figuring out who was hoarding food in the tribe, or warning everyone that a lion was creeping up nearby. This was huge. For the first time in the history of the planet, survival knowledge could be copied and downloaded directly into the next generation. We didn't have to wait around for the agonizingly slow process of biological evolution anymore. At that point, they officially became human, and they started walking out of Africa, ready to take over the world. For about 200,000 years, human existence was basically one giant, never-ending camping trip. When the food dried up, you packed your bags and moved on. Sure, it was a tough life, but it was free. Then, roughly 10,000 years ago, we walked right into a trap. And that trap was agriculture. We used to think the story went like this. Humans settled down to farm, got comfortable, and then started building temples and inventing religion. But modern archaeology is flipping that script. It turns out our ancestors might have wanted to build these massive, monumental temples first, and to feed the thousands of workers hauling all that stone, they were forced to figure out how to plant seeds. But no matter which came first, the end result was exactly the same. Wheat had us chained to the dirt. Farming produced a massive amount of food, and the population absolutely exploded. The catch? You can't exactly pack up a wheat field and run away when a drought or a plague hits. Now, surplus food meant that not everyone had to spend their days farming anymore. Some people started forging tools. Others became merchants. And just like that, the concept of private property was born. Here's the thing. When you have nice stuff, someone else is going to want to steal it. So people needed enforcers, someone to settle disputes, protect the stash, and collect what was basically legal protection money. Boom. You've got governments and laws, and how do you keep track of who actually paid their wheat tax to the state? The Mesopotamians solved that by inventing writing. But how do you convince tens of thousands of total strangers, people with absolutely zero blood relation, to not kill each other and actually submit to a shared social order? Religion and shared myths. They became the ultimate social glue. Civilization started popping up everywhere. Greece gave us philosophy, math, and the bedrock of democracy. Rome, they built these magnificent roads. Though let's be real, they mostly built them so their armies could march over and punch their neighbors faster. Because that is the brutal rule of civilization. Once an empire gets big enough, it turns into a monster. It has to constantly devour someone else's resources just to keep itself from completely collapsing. Rome fell. But please don't call the next few centuries in Europe the Dark Ages. They didn't actually go backward. They were just busy splintering apart and playing the game of feudal thrones. Meanwhile, over in the Middle East and Asia, math, astronomy, and trade were having an absolute golden age. Eventually, Europe woke back up. They dusted off the old Greek texts. They borrowed algebra from the Arabs. They borrowed a little gunpowder from China. But the real game changer hit when Gutenberg invented the printing press. Knowledge officially went viral. It was no longer locked away in monasteries for the elite to hoard and control. People started doubting. They started questioning everything. Science was born. Right around this time, Europe was incredibly thirsty for gold and spices. They set sail looking for a shortcut and accidentally crashed right into the Americas. Armed with guns and foreign diseases, they wiped out indigenous civilizations. They set up a global exploitation machine, colonialism. And don't forget, the massive wealth and stolen labor wrung out of these colonies is exactly what bankrolled humanity's next insane growth spurt. Fast forward to the 18th century. Someone in Britain realizes that boiling water makes steam, and steam can push machinery. Welcome to the Industrial Revolution. We stopped relying on human muscle and horsepower. Instead, we started digging up coal, which is literally just the crushed, burnt corpses of extinct forests from hundreds of millions of years ago, and we set it on fire. The world accelerated like a runaway train. Electricity, antibiotics, airplanes, mass assembly lines. We were living longer and multiplying faster than ever before. But industrialization didn't just upgrade our living standards, it drastically scaled up our capacity to kill. The two bloody world wars that tore through the 20th century proved a pretty brutal truth. At our core, we are still just curious apes, only now we are armed with mechanized weapons. After the world wars, we invented the atomic bomb. Suddenly, fighting face-to-face became way too risky. Why? Because a full-blown war could literally reset the entire planet's ecosystem. So the superpowers shifted strategies. They just glared at each other and raced to see who could shoot a giant piece of metal into space first. And while they were trying to build a military communications system that could somehow survive a nuclear apocalypse, they accidentally gave birth to the internet. In an absolute blink of historical time, we went from riding horses to dropping robots on Mars. We hacked our own DNA and we managed to cram the entire sum of human knowledge into a glowing rectangle of glass that fits right in your pocket. 13.8 billion years. That's what it took. Mindless space trash somehow reorganized itself. It grew hands. It learned how to harness fire. And now, it is incredibly busy typing code to build AI. The universe went through billions of years of chaotic, violent evolution just to create you. And you are using this miraculous cosmic moment to sit here and watch a YouTube video. But honestly, that's totally fine. Because at the end of the day, you are literally just the universe figuring out a way to look back at itself.